Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Gutfeld, along with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Julie Rodzinski, Eric Bowling, and she uses an eyelash as a back scratcher. Dana Perino, The Five.
I doubt it.
Today is the funeral for New York police officer Brian Moore, who was shot dead last week. On Monday, this Monday, National Police Week starts to show appreciation for all of our fallen officers. It's needed now more than ever because, unlike anti-cop activists, cop supporters have jobs. And so we must try harder to thank the police because they won't be asking for it. It was just months ago that ghouls demanded dead cops. Mission accomplished, you dirtbags. What's happening to police is what happened to businesses decades ago. Activists smearing entire enterprises with isolated events. Car companies, drug companies. You can't think about the oil industry without thinking of oil spills. This tactic is now applied to police.
We can't pathologize people who, after decades and centuries of police terrorism, have decided to respond in this way.
The police have talked about the fact that they are willing to be tactically very aggressive as the situation stays out of control. If they're picking up things that are being thrown at them and throwing them back, that implies to me, just as a lay observer, that the police feel that the police are a little bit out of control, or that they may not be necessarily using disciplined police tactics.
We talk about training. We talk about having officers. I was talking to a city councilman here last week who was saying, Brooke, these people have to live in the communities. There's no emotional, or there's a lack of emotional investment. And I love our nation's veterans, but some of them are coming back from war. They don't know the communities, and they're ready to do battle.
Fact, in New York City, people fatally shot by police has dropped 90% since the 1970s, even as violent crime went down. But yet, they're the bad guys. And that's a win for the career disruptor. No spotlight on gangs or their black victims. To point that out would be racist. Condemning crime is condemning a lifestyle. Even with Baltimore's police mugshots, both black and white, the dukes of division make it about race. For this is really about subversion. Forget big business now. If you bring down the cops, you bring down society. That's the agitator's goal. Who has an edge over you? For while you go to work, the agitator has no such commitment. This is all that they do. So how do we stop that? Why not give them what they want? I call it the police exemption pass. If you hate cops, then ask for a pass that says, under no circumstances will the police ever assist you. It's a do not resuscitate for radicals, getting them to live by their actual words. I mean, why would you want to be saved by the people that you want dead? The cops have a duty to protect you, but do you have the guts to refuse it? All right, Kimberly, 30,000 police officers gathered to remember Brian Moore today. Show of force and unity. It was more than normal. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's symbolic, right? They were there to honor and respect a man that lived, served, and died for this city. This is somebody that was widely admired in the police department. His supervisor said if he had all officers and more officers like him, there would be no crime in the city. So this is someone we should be really celebrating as an example of the fine men and women that serve in the uniforms in blue. I find it heartwarming to see how many people showed up to give support. And I believe a lot of people in the community are respectful and appreciative of the fine work that the cops do every day. And it's too bad that a very vocal minority of individuals cast dispersions and call for the death of fine officers like this.
Yeah, Julie, this is the only time, though, that you ever see such outpouring, and I think it is the public shares some responsibility in this, that we don't go out of our way to support the police unless something bad happens to them.
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, look, for example, I got mugged last year, and there were 2 police officers who showed up, and I thanked them profusely. I thanked them on the air. I thanked them in person. I am very, listen, I live in the Upper West Side.
Did they catch the guy?
They pulled, but I will tell you, they pulled over. It was somebody stole my iPhone. They pulled over like the first 6 African American kids that they saw and started asking me which one of them did it. I couldn't identify them, and they were You know, if I were
Well, I would assume they did that based on a suspect description that you gave about age.
It was.
Height,
I'm not
weight,
castigating them for doing it.
No.
I'm not.
I made it sound like some kind of bizarre racial profiling situation.
No. I'm saying that I told them what the person did, or the group of kids did who did this, and they pulled random kids, and maybe one of them was, and one of them wasn't. I couldn't identify them. But
it turns out it was Brian Kilmeade.
It was Brian Kilmeade. Yeah. Actually, now's the time to let people know it was Brian Kilmeade. Give me my phone back. But look. I live on the Upper West Side. That is probably one of the more liberal parts of New York City. I don't know anybody who lives in my neighborhood who's not grateful for cops every day.
True.
Every single day. So you can't just, it's not a liberal versus conservative thing. People who say cops should be killed are crazy, and they don't deserve our time to even talk about. But I will say, despite all that, you can't ignore the fact that there are police departments. Don't shake your head, Eric.
No, it's so typical.
It's not
You're
typical.
doing exactly what you do what de Blasio did. You go through this thing where you go, wow, Julie, that's amazing. And then you go, but
wait a second, Eric.
I'm
sorry. There are no bad cop apples?
But no,
there are no bad apples?
Julie, can you say maybe perhaps individual officers? I wouldn't say a whole police department categorically.
We just saw the Justice Department say that the Ferguson Police Department, for example, had things that they did that were racial and that they shouldn't do. Now, you may not agree with their assessment, but that's what the United States Justice Department ruled, even while they ruled that the specific officer in Ferguson did nothing wrong, essentially. So you can't go out there and say that all cops are great, all liberals are bad. That's a straw man argument. There are bad people and good people on both sides of the argument, and you can't go out there and say, we can't criticize the police department.
No, but no one's saying that at this
Well,
stage.
actually, you are.
You can say no. I'm actually not saying that. I'm saying there should be specific factual instances that you evaluate on an individual basis.
Agreed.
And not say that whole police departments, they can launch all the investigations they want. They still have to come back with conclusive and persuasive facts, and if there is a problem, then it should be addressed.
Agreed, and I think Ferguson proved that there was a persuasive and compelling argument for an entire police department to do that.
All right, I want to ask you, Eric, don't you think if a radical does not like the police, shouldn't they voluntarily go to the police department and say, don't help me?
They don't. It's not that they don't want the protection. They just don't want to point out that police matter.
Yeah.
Radicals, you say. So this morning I'm at Dunkin' Donuts, and I walk in, and Officer Mike from Demers Police walks in, and he's dressed in
Now that's a stereotype.
Blue. Now, wait a minute. No. And he's got the black band on his badge, and I forgot until I saw that, and I was it just killed me. I was like ready to cry right there. Questioning cops and their tactics is emboldening bad guys. Bad guys now, for some reason, if you're a bad guy, you're doing something wrong, and you're carrying an illegal gun, they used to run. They didn't want to get stopped and frisked. They didn't want to be caught with a gun. Now they approach the squad car. Now they approach the unmarked car. And now Officer Liu, Officer Ramos, and Brian Moore are dead because they've been emboldened. Why are they being emboldened? Because people like de Blasio, people on the left who say we have to somehow point the finger at cops because there are bad cops. There are vast numbers of great cops and very, very few bad cops.
Agreed, but you can't close your eyes and say you could never criticize any cops out there. That makes it anti-cop.
Every time we're talking about Officer Moore,
nope.
You did it. So did de Blasio do it when he's talking about Officer Moore. The same thing. He was talking about the great Officer Moore, and then he goes, but we need to talk about how the NYPD handles people of color in the community. It's like, really?
Dana, I'm going to just roll a little piece of Police Chief Bill Braden at the funeral promoting Brian Moore, and then I'll comment on whatever you want.
Okay.
With great honor and great sadness, I posthumously promote Police Officer Brian Moore, Shield 469, to Detective First Grade, New York City Police Department. Today, let us say farewell to Detective Brian Moore as he begins his journey to a new assignment. A hero of the city, a guardian at the gate of New York City, and now a guardian angel at the gate of heaven.
So it sounds to me like a fitting tribute, and I also think that the NYPD has been, I only lived here for a few years, but it seems to me that the NYPD is this model of it's an example that other police departments, if they want to know how to integrate and how to have more minorities be a part of the police force and then integrate with the communities, that this is a good one to look at. The Department of Justice announced it's going to look into the Baltimore Police Department. I do think it is warranted then at the same time to look at the mayor's actions because she made decisions that put them in a bad position. Why are you grinning at me?
No, I think it's a good point.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a good point. What? All right.
You keep looking like you're going to laugh.
No, I'm
at
not
me.
laughing.
Not
I'm
laughing
thinking.
at me.
Just happy
You're
to
thinking.
see you.
Yes, very happy.
That's all.
And I also thought last week that Loretta Lynch, the new Attorney General, struck a really good tone and a balance, right? Because remember, we ran the clip where she was talking to the cops saying, you chose a noble profession, and you should remember that. And I think, she's new on the job. I'm sure she's extremely busy, but I think attending the funeral today would have sent a message. Of course, she can't attend every funeral. I know that. But this one, after she got to Baltimore quickly, I think if she'd gone to this one, it would have sent a really positive message.
Kimberly, I was watching again at the gym, CNN, because that's all they have on. I think
I would have worked
need a new
out there.
gym.
I know.
You.
Carol Costello had asked one of the experts there, who would want to be a cop? Now, this is after spending years smearing them. Mainstream media or establishment cable media has been smearing cops forever. And now they're going, why on earth would anybody want to be a cop? How stupid is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so were the first statements that preceded it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just have some appreciation, have some intelligence, and have some range in your brain to be able to evaluate individual departments and individual people. Would you want everyone saying, oh, these guys, whatever. I want them to focus on what you're doing individually, instead of always thinking in the lazy collective. All cops, all departments. We're not growing intellectually when we do that. Why don't you talk about what's going right and then make some suggestions about what we could do better? There's always room for improvements. But I think it's really inappropriate to sit there and wake up in the morning and say, you know what? All cops are bad, and act like their lives don't matter. They are going out trying to do good every day. Not everybody's perfect, but there's a lot that's going right in community policing across this country. And there's people in cities, good mayors, like the one we have, that are trying to come into communities, create a relationship and a dialogue between the police department and individuals, especially in disadvantaged neighborhoods. There's moms and dads that want safe neighborhoods for their kids to be able to go to school. Let's work together and talk about what we're doing, and successful models, Dana, templates like New York City Police Department of how we can do it better as a country. That to me seems to be a positive, healthy approach.
But I don't think anybody is disagreeing with you except for the people that are going out there saying, let's kill dead cops. And you can't use those people as the example of, you can't use those people as your example of people who think the police department can do better. I'm not talking about you, but
how about a less intense,
or the mainstream media can't do that.
How about a less intense example would be Mayor de Blasio remarking that he had to lecture give his kid a talk about New York cops. That is a very, very deep jab at the police.
Sure
he's telling his son, you can't trust the cops.
Not only that, but he's telling the public that he told his son.
Story.
He used his son as a prop to make a progressive point.
Guys, we are 5 white people sitting around here having no idea what he thinks about his African-American kid going out there.
Who's white?
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't think you fit the profile of what his son looks like.
I'm white.
So what? Yeah. I'm a Puerto Rican woman.
All right, well, I don't think you're pulled over like, people in the South.
I get pulled over quite often.
We cannot.
Not for those reasons, my friend.
He made this story public as a way to somehow get some press. And then when those poor cops were killed, he had to run and hide, and he was an embarrassment. So he made it the story, not these 5 white people.
Look, I'll tell you this. I'm not a big fan of Bill de Blasio, but I am not going to judge him for what he tells his kid to feel.
I am. I'm going to judge the hell out of him because he made it public.
Do you think it was appropriate for him to bring up the racial aspect of what's going on in kind of a eulogy that he was giving?
And I don't think it's true. I think he made it up.
Oh, I think it's true.
But do you think it's appropriate to do that? Literally talking about Brian Moore and then say?
I don't think it was Brian Moore. It was the previous ones.
No, it was Brian Moore 2 days ago.
He said that again about his kid again
2
today?
days ago.
He said
Not
that
at the funeral, on
All
an
right,
event.
listen.
Right.
Again, I'm going to say
Is it
this.
appropriate? Yes
Is it
or no?
appropriate? I'm going to say to you that it's not for me to tell him what to tell his black kid about how he feels when he goes out there. Eric, it's not.
He's a public figure. He's the mayor.
I'm simply saying, if you're going to talk about a fallen 25-year-old cop,
is it appropriate at that time?
Go ahead and add. And by the way, the NYPD really needs to learn how to work with the
I will tell you this.
community.
I have no issues. Nobody crosses the street when I walk down the street. Maybe they do and they don't tell me.
You're deflecting.
I'm not deflecting, Eric. I'm saying that I'm a white person.
He was wrong to do it.
I told you he was wrong to do it at that time. But what he's not wrong about is the fact that as a white person, nobody crosses the street when they see me at 2 a.m. If you're a black guy walking down the street, people cross the street.
They cross the street when they see me, but it's usually because of what I'm wearing.
And that's the problem.
Often see-through.
And if you're African American, I don't blame people who are good, who are African American, who feel like they're being this is discrimination against them.
Nobody's saying that. Anyway, Dana, last to you. This next week, May 13th, is Police Week, National Police Week. There are ceremonies in D.C., and they're asking residents to go to the precincts for a vigil. You can go to policeweek.org. Is it sad that we need a week? Shouldn't it be all the time?
Well, there's a week for everything. And
That's true.
Of all the weeks, this would seem like a pretty good one. And
Right.
I think that stopping by, saying hello, or at least when you pass a cop in the street, I'm glad when I see cops. And maybe it's just my personal experience, right? When I walk through Columbus Circle and the bike gangs are having their little fights about who's going to rent the bikes, if there's cops there, I'm always a little bit more at ease. So maybe that is my personal
Cops
preference.
in this town are very, very friendly. They always say hi. We love the five.
Yeah, and the majority is the minority.
Yeah.
On the force. So we got to move. So what does Tom Brady think of the report that implies he's a cheater? His answer next. And later we're going to answer your questions. It's Facebook Friday, so post them on our page, facebook.com/the5FNC.